profile. Joining us now is Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Good morning, Congressman.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
What do these revelations about Rob Porter say about Chief of Staff John Kelly?
Well, I know what they say about Rob Porter, which is he's got some serious issues and something that, you know, if in fact this was known prior, it should have been dealt with prior. I don't know the details of what John Kelly knew. I've learned on some of these stories that right when they come out, you don't have all the facts. But look, there's no doubt in the business we work in government service, there's no room for anybody that is involved in spousal abuse. And, you know, this should have been dealt with, or at least was dealt with now.
Yeah, our reporting is that John Kelly, the Chief of Staff, has known about this since last fall, and that, in fact, Rob Porter couldn't get a full security clearance. If the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, has let Rob Porter continue to work in the Oval Office with this access to the president, he couldn't get a security clearance. I mean, with these accounts of his ex-wives, does that cause you to lose some faith in John Kelly?
No, I mean, look, John Kelly, in terms of a personnel question, again, a lot of details to come out. I think if this was fully known, if in fact that was the case, they should have moved on this a lot earlier. But that said, yesterday, we bombed and destroyed 100 pro-regime forces in Syria, taking a stand against the encroachment of Bashar al-Assad, against our allies, and frankly, a stand against the Russians. That's a direct responsibility of decisions by the president and by this chief of staff. I have full faith and confidence in this chief of staff, and frankly, a lot of the decisions that he's making with and around the president.
But, okay, and I do want to get to Syria. I know that you want to talk about that, and I do want to get the details because the American public do need to hear it from you. But how can you have full faith and confidence in John Kelly, knowing that he might have known about this?
Like I said, this is, for basically hearing this yesterday, I'm uncomfortable coming out and saying, with some of the things that have been reported, here's my answer, and therefore I do or don't have faith in the chief of staff. I think there's information. Did he fully know? If he did know, did he attempt to make action? If not, why? There's some questions there, but there's no doubt if somebody is in office or is in a position of public trust, and that's been the allegation against that, it needs to be adjudicated, and it probably should have been adjudicated sooner.
Yes,
but I don't think that necessarily jumps to the level of saying, I don't have faith in General Kelly.
Okay, I understand, and I understand that you're saying that you need more details. But the fact that Rob Porter couldn't get a full security clearance, shouldn't that have raised some alarm bells?
It should, but there's a lot of people that can't get a full security clearance for any reason. So that in and of itself, maybe not. I don't know if he needed a security clearance for his position. A lot of them you don't if you're simply a kind of a secretary position or a media position. I just don't know. And again, I get what it's a legitimate question to ask me, but it's also, I'm uncomfortable moving forward and saying, here's the answer when I don't know all the answers, because that's a pretty big deal.
I understand, but still, I mean, you do know that yesterday he found out and they put out a glowing statement about Rob Porter. Does that show bad judgment?
Nah, look, again, I think this guy obviously has real issues. He should not have worked in the White House, and I think he's gone now. That's a good thing. The question is, why wasn't he gone earlier? What did or didn't we know? And we'll find out answers. And if there's anybody else with this kind of a situation, it ought to be dealt with.
I want to ask you about the budget because obviously the clock is ticking. The Senate has passed this budget plan, $500 billion in new spending. Will the House go along with this?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be bipartisan. It's not pretty. Governing's difficult. We have to rebuild our military, though. We've neglected it for a long time. If we don't do this, we're going to spend way more money in the future. In order to be able to add military spending, the Democrats, who have some leverage in the Senate, said we want to add some to domestic spending. We're doing that. A lot of them are Republican priorities. So look, anytime you ever come to a deal, no side's going to be happy. That's how you usually know you have something that works. Yeah. But I think ultimately we have to see all the details because we've only seen kind of top lines. But I think this thing passes and we can get out of this cycle of crisis after crisis here.
And just out of curiosity, what has happened to the Republicans claiming the mantle of fiscal conservative, of being that party?
We still do. The difference is when you give tax cuts, reinvigorate and re-inspire an economy, which we're seeing happen right now. Massive economic growth. People are hiring. That's a good thing. So a business that finds itself in debt will still invest in expanding its operations because that will help it to get out of debt. But on the other side of things, with something like this, look, the number one priority I have is to protect this country. And as a currently serving military guy, I can tell you sequester isn't working. The only way to reverse sequester is to spend more. And unfortunately, that's what we're going to have to do. 75% of federal expenditures, though, aren't even controlled by Congress. And it's something we're not even talking about.
Okay, that leads us to Syria. Tell us what's happening in Syria. What's Assad doing right now?
Well, Assad's trying to maintain power. He's being held up by the Russians and the Iranians. They are as much to bear for the 500,000 dead Syrians and 50,000 dead children as Bashar al-Assad is, because they're enabling him. But basically, inaction in Syria has led to this complicated situation where now you have Turkey, Syria, Iran, the United States, Saudi Arabia, and all these different actors basically standing there saying, hey, we want Syria to be, beneficial or to look like, to be free, or to be whatever Russia wants in this case. And right now you have Iran, in essence, trying to build a land bridge. So the existence of our forces there, Bashar al-Assad and his associated forces approached our base, and frankly, we did what we said we would do, which is protect ourselves. And early indications are over 100 dead pro-Assad forces. And there are some speculation. I don't want to say that I have confirmation. I don't. But there's some speculation that there are Russian contractors involved as well.
Okay, Congressman Adam Kinzinger, thank you very much for speaking
Anytime.
about all of this.